But
Yeah.
I know that's true. And I would like to introduce today one of the veteran in this People CMM implementation and assessments. I'm pleased to introduce my very senior colleague, Mr. Mohandas. Mr. Mohandas and myself, we both were qualified as People CMM lead assessors by Bill Curtis. Bill Curtis is the chief architect of this model. So this is somewhere around 2001, 2002. We both have undergone. We are directly the disciples of the chief architect of this model, and we have developed a passion towards that. And from that time onwards, we started implementing this. Mohandas, I request you to have a couple of words about your introduction. Then you can add anywhere in between. Most welcome to come in. Yeah, unmute, please. Unmute. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Right. Now, okay.
Very good evening to all of you, and probably we are the only lucky guys who went through the version 1 of the PCMM, as well the version 2 and subsequent whatever added and which has become a book now. Or many universities and libraries are following it. And thanks to Chandrasekhar, it has been taken over to all over Engineering Staff College and to the north as well as south, Neyveli Lignite Corporation and Vizag. I think it's spread across everywhere except northeast where he has some petroleum industry. I heard he went.
I know. But total of last year, we have done 36 central PSUs out of the complete list of 53. That is what is the data says. So our share is 36 out of 53.
So many of you, by your contribution as well as asking questions, you have nurtured us. You have reminded us what we have learned 20 years ago. So it's a great salam to you from Hyderabad. I operate from Hyderabad. And myself had a 30 years of experience in HR and then went to college again after 30 years to Asian Institute of Management. Came back and found the routine job. It didn't satisfy me. So I became a consultant. So that is how we enjoy doing this. Whether it is people normally say that, oh, you don't learn anything from public sector, but believe me, whether it is underground storage tank in one of the PSU or there is another mines where the course of river was changed from his normal course to the other course because they wanted to mine it. I mean, all this was possible. Unfortunately, we are not able to name them here for whatever NDA agreement. So we have found that talent can achieve everything. 95%. The 5% is the political issue. Probably we don't have an answer for that in PCMM yet. Unfortunately, Dr. Bill Curtis is busy elsewhere now. He is no longer holding the baton as he used to hold. So it is a pleasure to be with you today and looking forward to learn few things out of you guys. And the major thing is that this is the only tool which encompasses everything. Otherwise, bits and pieces, everybody is doing like TKM, Six Sigma, OD, OB. But I think here, if you look at the 4 pillars as well as the 5 levels, you will understand how it is interwoven and it gives the result of innovation and creative management at the level 5. So hope we all will learn together, share together.
Absolutely. Thank you. And then we will start the session today. So let me share my screen. So welcome to this presentation. Greetings from MacLead Certifications. We are the CMMI Partner Institute. And this today's topic is on People Capability Maturity Model. The word people is an American expression for our Indian human resources. Capability is the ability of the people in the organization at the highest level. What is the peak performance level? that the organization people can contribute. From there, that's where organizations would determine what are their capacities, and that will lead to the competencies in the people, and the organization will be considered that it is now following certain mature level practices. This maturity model is different from a certification model. Unlike in certification or in a legislative compliance, even in legal compliance, what do you have? Either you comply, you don't comply. In even the 9001 or 14001, the certifications, either you pass or you fail. But whereas in this maturity model, it puts you, it's a measure of your status as of now, whether the processes, that is the people processes particularly, or the HR processes, in other words, that to put it that way, HR processes, their HR processes maturity, where does it stand as on today in the organization? Does it stand at the level 5, which is optimizing, that takes care of it is attributed by the change management, or the attribute is, it is at initial, which is nothing but the inconsistent results. So that is initial level, or somewhere in between defined level. You have heard from Power Grid, few of our HR professionals, they mentioned that they have implemented and also they have stabilized, institutionalized the practices of defined level, that is maturity level 3, which is competency management. So we will look into these 5 levels very closely today. That is the level 1, which is an inconsistent management. Level 2, it is a people management. Level 3, it is competency management. Level 4, it is the capability management that happens by virtue of predictions that we can make, where the lot of statistics are being applied in human resources. Our friend Mohandas has mentioned just now, we have got data analytics. We have got HR data analytics. Even HR data analytics is a part of the capability management in the level 4 of predictable level. And then finally, tailor making as per the needs of the day, as per the needs of the people, as per the needs of the culture, the size of the organization, complexity of the organization. If you can adapt your procedures, policies, environment, then we call the organization is today is able to absorb the changes at any given point of time without having any negative consequences. Then we call the organization is operating at a maturity level 5, that is a optimizing level. Now look at this. Now, whereas here it says managed, the past, defined the past, predictable, again it's a future, but it is here saying optimizing. It is not saying optimized. That means it is saying there is no end to this change management or continual improvement management in our people processes, in any organization for that matter. So the transition takes place from one maturity level to the other maturity level by these, whatever is depicted here. So from initial to managed, it is the repetition of the practices that will take the organization to a managed level. And if you adopt the competency based practices, there is some error, please forgive us, then we will correct it. If it is a competency based practices, then we go to defined level. When we adopt measured and empowered practices, then we go to predictable level. And finally, when we start doing continual improvement of the practices in every practice of human resource management, if we do the improvements, then we are at maturity level 5. So we will see little more in details what is contained in this, all the 5 levels. So today we will cover what is this people CMM, the structure, one of the sample process area, and how do we conduct an assessment. Precisely that's what we have done for 36 central PSUs last year. We will see that. And then I'm introducing some terms called process areas, goals, and practices. We will also see what are these in this model for all the levels. So the question first is, what is people CMM? So you could see the road today, nowadays, after the COVID effect, all the roads are like this only. There is no car traveling on the road. They're all smooth, free, pollution free. It's a roadmap for implementing HR practices to continually improve. The catch is the capability of the organization. That is the catch of this roadmap. That's why in the central PSUs, from the document that has come from Department of Public Enterprises, they have mentioned very clearly, first, do the assessment of these PCMM maturity levels and decide where are you, and then develop a roadmap for the future. So this is people CMM is a roadmap for implementing HR practices in a very well structured manner. This structure today encompasses all the possible aspects into that. The model is so dynamically written. Even all the best practices of OD, organization development, which is promoted by our IIM Ahmedabad, particularly the gurus like Somnath, TV Rao, Uday Parikh, Pestonji, even that is also incorporated into this model.
Also, Vendranath,
Yes.
Dave Aldrich.
Yes, very
International
right.
guest.
All are included in this model. That's why we call this as a comprehensive model. It addresses all the aspects of that. But of course, there are also some limitations, because we know the limitations. We'll also talk about few, not all. After implementing this, now it is almost 20 years we have been implementing this model in various corporates, and we have been providing training. And now we have seen a big need in the central PSUs. So we will look into the details of this PCMM. Now the question, why do we adopt this model to our organization at all? If time would have permitted, I would have come with these zigzag entries of all of them together like this. But because of the time, I put everything together, but they're all zigzag. These are all the functions that we do as HR professionals. Performance management, intellectual assets, training, work design, career design, knowledge management, core competencies, management as coach, like that. These are all various. I would like to state one experience of mine. Literally, when I look back, I consider that is one of not the right approach. I should have done a better approach. Around in the year 1995, I was providing consultancy to one of the organization in the country. They were a very small scale sector at that time, with around 3 crores of turnover, 70 people working in that organization. They had a live problem in that organization. The live problem is, for the last 3 years, they were unable to implement performance based incentives and increments to their people. Because before 3 years of that 1995, means 92 and below, they were giving increments and incentives to all the same amount, irrespective of their level grade. Whether it is a supervisor, officer, or a general manager, does not have any difference, irrespective of the performance done by them. So they tried 1 year, that is 1993. They failed. Then they called everyone. They said, now you tell me how to do this. Should we do this or not? But when it is called in a group meeting, they were all telling that, yes, we should do this. Whoever does better, they should get more. Very good. So shall we do this year? Yes, answer is yes. In 1993, again, few people have given some extra amounts of increment, extra amounts of incentive. Immediately, the rest of the group revolted and said, why did you give them? You first answer that. Why not we? Again, that organization could not establish any base, and they have to go back and then again give that higher increments to everyone. So it continued for 3 years. That's where the organization has sought my help. Literally speaking, that is more of a performance management and a compensation structural issue. But I am not good at that. By the time I left corporate world from Reebok India Limited as a general manager training, so my area has been only training part. That is, training and development is my area. Then I suggested this organization, I will start with the training intervention to you, then I'm going to performance intervention. Organization did not have any other choice. Because they failed 3 times, they have used many other people, no use. So we will experiment with you. They experimented with us. But we had an understanding that you please don't tell any employee in the organization that I came for this correcting the performance-based incentives and increments. And they said yes. The director said, yes, we will go with that. Then I started with a training on goal setting process. At that time, literally, I'm admitting very candidly, even I have admitted with the board of directors also, that I thought goal setting is a must for the performance management in any organization. And that is also true, because our performance management today, we are going to deal with that process area. It also talks about the first goal in the performance management is to set objectives. So conducted a program, and finally, they all have agreed. Then, because there were previous experiences of going back, this time it has not been done like that. This time, in the beginning of the year itself, the objectives have been defined and measured, quantitative objectives. And they were regularly monitored on month-to-month basis. And at the end, we have statistics and data available, which department, which person has done how much. So the results, performance is quantitatively available. So based on that, increments were given, incentives were given. Then the revolt was almost like nil. There were 1 or 2 stray cases. It's not that it did not happen. Thereafter, it took 3 years for us to correct the salary structure of that organization by putting into different scales, different grades, and then giving, because we cannot give more increments at a time to some people, less increments to some people. That would also create. So we made a plan for 3 years, then implemented it, and successfully. Then we went into all other processes. That's where I got qualified in the model of this People CMM as a lead assessor. After that, then I realized, oh, we can take it in a very structured way and then take the organization to big heights. So that's where, now look at this model. See, these are maturity levels. That is maturity level 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 I am not depicting because 1 does not have any process areas in 1. Whatever you are doing is considered as 1 in this model. But 2, maturity level 2 has got 6 process areas. So you could see the 6 process areas here: training and development, communication coordination, compensation, performance management, work environment, and staffing. These are the 6 process areas that is at maturity level 2. And in maturity level 3, there are 7 process areas. So that is competency analysis, competency development, participatory culture, like that. In 4, there are 6 process areas. 5, there are 3 process areas. So all put together, total 22 process areas. This is the model with 22 process areas. So now for an organization to move from one level to the other level, this model recommends you have to institutionalize the practices that are mentioned here in the level 2 before you really work for level 3. Otherwise, the building will not stand, it will collapse. You can say that I would like to straight implement these 3 process areas of maturity level 5 and I would like to be like at level 5. It cannot happen. It has got, these are all the foundations to take you to the maturity level 5. And these are even present, even an organization which is operating at maturity level 5. It's not that performance management is not there in an organization which is operating at a maturity level 5. This performance management still be applicable. All those practices are also to be implemented. So then we have implemented all these processes along with the practices that are defined in this model in that company. And it took almost for us 4 to 5 years. That's the time span it took for us to implement all the practices in that company with that 3 crores turnover and 70 people in number. And when we reached, that is 2000, the 2001, when we are implementing this, we have also set a target for 10 years, then 20 years. And today, that organization is 2000 plus crore organization with 3000 people being employed in the organization. So even the top management, including the CMD and directors, board of directors, they recognize that people CMM is, the people processes is one of the instrument that has helped this organization to stabilize and grow the people and people competencies in the organization. And they have established now 10 unit. One unit has become 10 units. They have purchased 5 units in Australia. The brand of Certa in mattresses have been purchased by that organization. And name of the organization where this has been literally with the spirit implemented, that is Sleep Well. You might have also seen that brand. Today, it occupies more than 50% of market in mattresses. So that is one of the success story where all these processes with the spirit, where the management from the top, they have supported, and to the bottom, it went on in that manner. So that's why the people CMM processes, if to implement them in a structured manner, so people CMM is a good model than of going with an unstructured way. We have some thought, let's do for career development. Not in that way, go in a structured way. That's what this model suggests. Now we can ask a question that why only this model? Is there any other model that is not available in our country or anywhere in the world? The answer is yes, there are different models. One of the model in India, mostly practiced and adopted, is organization development model, where again, they also conduct the surveys, they do assessments, whatever the pain areas, they start addressing those pain areas. And in UK, they have developed one model equivalent to this people CMM, but that did not see the light. It only went for 1 or 2 years, and thereafterwards it also died. But today, the model that has been implemented and practiced by most of the organizations like Boeing, Apple, Ericsson, TCS, Tech Mahindra, Emphasis, they're all implementing this model in letter and spirit.
And Wipro.
And Wipro, correct. So they are implementing this model to get the success. And we see the success stories of these organizations too. Then what does this model consist of? In fact, this model is nothing but the combination of these three big pillars. One is full human resource management, complete organizational change and development, which is nothing but the OD part, the culture, maturity, change management part. Then the total quality management, the TQM in HR. That's where the analytics part, process performance part is considered here. So this people CMM is an outcome of these three strong pillars on which this has been constructed. Now, in looking at this model, I would like to also relate this particular slide with the maturity levels, the process areas with the maturity levels. There is something called process area threads in this model they have described. Look at this. One of the process area thread is developing individual capability. The other is building work groups and culture, motivating management, shaping the workforce. This is nothing but the numbers, the manpower numbers. Now, coming to this place, let me take just for, because the time also we have to see for that purpose. Now look at this. How would, or what are the processes an organization adopts to develop people competency or individual competency? Naturally, the first easily available process to us is through training and developmental processes. That's why we have got training centers, we got learning centers. So we use them and then develop the competency that is needed. But the training and development, the focus of this training and development, particularly development, is a little futuristic, but the training is, even as per the definitions of Dr. T.V. Rao in his book, Designing Human Resource Management, he has defined, it is for equipping the person to perform the current job. Whatever the skills that are needed, if you can develop those skills and make this person to work in that, then it is, your training is the focus. The focus of training is completed. For example, there is a welder. The person has to conduct a welding. He need not to know what is the background of the voltage, what is the background of the rods that are to be used, how much is the speed, electric, all these are not required. But he has to follow a process, meticulous process. He has to use this material, he has to set the machine at this level of control, he has to do like this, he has to do the welding in this manner, and he has to test the welding in this manner. If you train that person to that much, good enough. That means training here in the maturity level 2, you are only focusing whatever is the minimum that is required to make the person to perform and give the result to us. That is what is the focus of training and development. But is that good enough for the developing individual capability? Definitely not. The person has to learn not only what is needed, because he doesn't have the other connects to that. So a competency analysis is to be done. Even for the present position, also the person is not going to be every time the same position. If he's a supervisor, he cannot be supervisor forever. He's an officer, he cannot be officer forever. He has to reach the chain of the highest chain. Let's say he is an officer in human resource department. He has to reach the level of director HR. So competency analysis is to be carried out for every position. What are the competencies that are needed? The competency here defined in this model is of 3 terms. That is the knowledge needed, skills needed, and process abilities needed. Knowledge is the information that is needed for the person. Skills is application of the knowledge to deliver the results. Process ability is to do the work in that organization's specific context. Every organization has got their own way of doing. something is acceptable in one organization, the same thing is not acceptable in other organization. So you have to adapt to that organization's context. That is what is called processability. For that matter, let us say you know how to drive the car. Driving the car in India, you know, you have the knowledge, you have the skill, you have got the processability. But if I give you the same car in, let's say, Dubai or London or somewhere else, you will not be able to drive because you need to be accustomed and adjusted to the context of that London or UK. Only then you will be able to drive. So the third element in competency is the processability. So apart from knowledge, skills, and processability, you will have to, for that, you will have to do competency analysis for each position. For this competency analysis, where you develop competency descriptions and you do competency mapping. There are also some software tools to do the competency development of descriptions and competency mapping. Even our organization, even we have also developed a tool for competency analysis, both for competency description making and as well as competency mapping purposes also. Then comes competency development. This competency development is for both for the current job performance as well as if I am a manager, I should look for general manager. If I am a GM, I should look for executive director. So like that, I should develop mine in a very structured way. 1 year this training, this competency, second year this competency, third year this competency. So I will put my own plans of career advancement through competency development. So you could see here the career development, competency development, they're all given in maturity level 3. Then, in spite of developing your competencies by all the structured manner, going to college, going to a training center, going to a training program, a certification program, yet that is not good enough. The individual capability would also be developed by virtue of another process that is called mentoring processes. The mentoring is one. Here, generally these kind of things are not available in any book. No book will tell you the rich experiences unless they document and publish it. Many people, even in our organization, might not have published our own experiences. So the transfer of highly learned experiences to the lower skilled or the people who are to be needed that kind of competency. So transferring that is a mentoring process. So it's a transfer of greater learnings to the other people. This need not to have even a designations into that. Even you see, everyone has got their own expertise in terms of different areas. Then comes, every time you may not have a mentor or you may not have a teacher or a trainer to do that. But there are some success stories, there are some failure stories. So you can make artifacts and make a repository or an asset or a library of competency-based assets. Now, most of the organizations, they already started making lot of, these are all learning, all the key learnings, they are being put into library. Whenever there is a similar kind of task, they draw that and they study and they redeploy.
Best practices, lessons learned.
Absolutely. The best practices, both success and failure stories also. Sometimes failure stories would also be a good competency-based asset because we can learn and adapt. We will not repeat that mistake.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Then finally, the learning will happen by their own research methodologies. They only do their own research, continuous capability improvement. So the process helps them to innovate learning practices by their own researchers in order to adapt to the current changes in the organization and to the environment. So that is continuous capability improvement. So that's how you could see as the maturity level increases, the process area, character or attribute or nature is also changing. Here, these are all higher level of attributes. Here it is a defined level of attribute. Here it is just to manage the work you have got. So this is how the 22 process areas are defined in 4 process area threads. So primarily these threads are considered like these are all the main objectives of the people CMM model. So one is developing individual capability, then building work groups and culture, motivating and managing performance, shaping the work. Mohan, would you like to add anything here on this slide? Because that's more punch slide.
Conceptually, at level 3, probably we are trying to install a process. Probably at level 2, it was working like an island of excellence in island type. They were all stovepipes. This department is very good. Probably another department is not having the same thing. So when you come to the level 3, probably the process is installed, and what you see is across the organization in terms of whatever Dr. Chandra said, competency. A job a guy doing here at a particular level will have similar load factor if you are using a Hay methodology. Next level, when you go to the 4, probably the process capability is managed quantitatively. That is why you use the word the HR analytics, the number stocks. You are able to assess, measure. Probably he would explain how we measure and verify. Later on, it will come. But as a concept, when you go to the 5th level, the personal work process improve as well as the organizational process improves. That is where we are taking the entire thing in terms of the process maturity at individual level and the organization level. Although this particular vertical pillar says individual capability, you see the next one is called building work group and culture. So we are here clubbing it with the organizational level. I think that conceptually, I think the process improved, quantified and measured, and then it is both individual level and the organization.
I have a point to add here.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
And that is, in the whole process, somewhere along the line, you're building accountability of people and ownership.
कपूर साहब आपका वॉइस ब्रेक हुआ है, थोड़ा दोबारा बताइए.
मैं कह रहा हूं, in the process, you are looking at the accountability as well as ownership of people.
Absolutely, sir. They are now. We'll also come to that. They are called institutionalization of these practices.
That is what I'm trying to say. So it will come somewhere in the whole thing.
Yeah, definitely it will come. You are right, sir. Thank you.
That is all I'm saying.
Yeah, right. Very. Okay. So
Probably
now we will
one
look at.
more point.
Yeah.
It's simpler to understand. Without communication and coordination, can we talk about the participative culture? I don't communicate. And how do you expect me as a participative culture at the next level?
Yeah.
See the building work group. And without work group development,